To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So, Lord God is cursing the woman and telling her that he will greatly multiply her sorrow and her conception. So, remember that Lord God is the parent, and he is cursing his daughter for life so that her sorrow will be multiplied for her entire life, and she will have difficulty in conception. And actually, in Genesis, a difficulty in conception is a huge part of the storylines for the characters in the Bible. There was always an issue with the woman not being able to conceive. Sarai, Abraham's wife, she could not conceive. Rachel could not conceive. There are women in the Bible that could not conceive. Tamar, she was not. She was able to conceive, but her husband's died, and so she had to conceive through her. She had to conceive through her father-in-law, and Lot's daughters, they had to conceive through him. And so there is a lot of fertility issues that were introduced into the Bible in Genesis. And as we go through each of those chapters together, I will show you. So they were trying to make this point that women are cursed with their conception. Now, we know today that women are not cursed during their conception, right? Because yes, some women may have difficulty during their pregnancies, but a lot of women don't have any difficulty during their pregnancies. And a lot of women don't have any difficulty conceiving. Some women do have difficulty conceiving. Some women do have difficulty during their pregnancy, but a lot of women do not. I know a lot of women, they did not have one day of morning sickness during their pregnancies. And so this curse is not even true. This curse is not true. It only has power if you believe it. I will greatly multiply thy sorrow. It only has power if you believe it. If you believe that your life is cursed as a woman for you to always have pain, disappointment, heartache, struggles, illnesses, if you believe that, then that will be for you. That you will manifest and realize that because you believe in it. That is not to say that women do not have sorrow, obviously. If a parent dies, if a child dies, if there is illness, and those things do happen, if there is loss, those things do happen. Sadness is in the world. But as there is sadness, there is also joy. So it's a balance. So sorrow should not be out proportioning joy. It's a balance. And the one you focus on the most really is the one that you will manifest into your life the most. So, Lord God cursing the woman, cursing Eve, telling her these things, it is not so. Now, Eve believes this, and so it is manifested. But if Eve were to say, you do not have the power to curse me because I am the tree of life, I am woman, my fruit, which I bear 12 times a year, is life itself, is the pathway for life itself. My leaves are for the healing of nations. What I am, what is on me, what makes me up as woman. I heal, I cure, I bring comfort, I bring nourishment, I bring everything that is to nurture life and harmony. And so she would have to believe that and to speak over herself in order to lift the curse. And that's why in Revelation 22 it says, and there will be no more curse, because she didn't step into her power to say, no, you do not have the power to curse me. because I speak over my own life. And in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. Now, I remember when I gave birth, I was so overcome with joy. I busted out crying when they placed my daughter on my chest and I felt that baby on me. I was crying. I was crying. I could not explain it. There were about 20 people in the room because it was a training hospital. So the doctor that was in charge had about 15 students with her, or it seemed to me like about 15 students. I had no shame of crying and showing my great joy because I had bring forth life into the world. So for Lord God to say, and thou shalt bring forth, in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. This is not so. And that thy desire shall be for thy husband, and he shall rule over you. Of course, in a healthy marriage, a wife's desire is for her husband, and that is true. He will rule over you. The both partners of the marriage, of the relationship, rule. We have different roles and responsibility. The role that a woman has, that a female has in society, is a different role. She has different responsibilities, and they are her power. The role that a man has in society is a different role and different responsibilities. And those things are his power. They are different things. They cannot even be compared. They should not be compared. Men and women are not equal. They are different. It doesn't even make sense for you to say that they should be equal. Because saying a man and a woman is equal is like saying an apple and an orange is equal. Yes, they're both fruit, but their purpose on earth is so different that they shouldn't even be compared. I mean, they can be classified to say that they're both fruit, but there's no need to compare them because their purpose is different. What I bring to the table as a woman, as a female, and what my husband brings to the table as a man, as a male, is inseparable. It, it's so different that it cannot be compared. So no one can really rule because there are instances where I can rule because I'm more dominant or more passionate in that area. And there is a lot of instances where my husband will rule. He will definitely rule because he is more experienced, he's more passionate, he's more knowledgeable about those areas. And I will forever yield to him in those areas because he's dominant in those areas. I can provide my support to him as I always do and always will, but he will always rule in those areas. So no one rules. It's a yin and a yang. Both of us, it's a balanced situation. We're not supposed to be competing. We're not supposed to be equal. We're so different. It makes no sense for us to say that we, as a female, is equal to a man or a man is equal to us. We are different. God, the true God that created the entire universe, is a capitalist. If you look out in nature, you will see that some things are bigger, some things are smaller, even though they're the same things. You'll find a tree, some trees are bigger, some trees are smaller. They'll be side by side. They're getting the same amount of rain, the same amount of sunshine, the same amount of nutrients from the ground. One is taller, one is not. One died, one survived. Now, who is to say who dies and who survives? Especially they're getting the same thing. But you can see that nothing is the same in nature. Nature is a really great reflection of how we should be living because nature tells you the truth. Nature tells you that some will make it and some won't, even though They are exposed to the same conditions. And they should have good conditions. But even though they're exposed to good conditions, some will make it and some won't. Some trees will yield a lot. Some trees won't produce at all for whatever the reason. They won't even put out their fruit. But some trees, they overproduce. Some trees overproduce so much to their own detriment because they overproduce. So that is the way to say that the husband shall rule over the no, that is not even what is going on in society today. That is what the writers of the Bible wanted to have happen, and that's why for a very, very long period of time, for centuries, males dominated. But we can see that that leads to no good end. No one gender should dominate, and the females should not dominate as well. If females dominate and rule over their husbands, it will be total chaos. Just as it was total chaos when the men were dominating. It has to be a balance. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, curses the ground for thy sake, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. So he's cursing Adam and cursing the ground and cursing Adam for listening to his wife, which he gave them to each other to be in partnership. So he curses the ground. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring to thee, and thou shalt eat of the herbs of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for thus thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And so he's cursing Adam and cursing the ground and telling Adam that he will always struggle to cultivate the ground. And so you can think about it in that way, or you can find joy in your work. Do not allow anyone to curse and speak over you. And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. Eve, she was the mother of all human beings. She's not the mother of all living, she's the mother of all human beings. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skin and clothe them. So I've always been curious about the Lord God making them coats of skin and clothing them. Because remember, when they discovered their vulnerability, they made clothes for themselves to cover their genitals. They did like fig leaves together and covered themselves. So when going out, they would have had the ability to clothe themselves. So I wonder what the coats of skins really mean here. What is this representing? Does it mean that they were really just spiritual beings, and now that they're going out of the garden, that now they'll have like actual human skin? I've always been curious to really know what coats of skin mean. And the Lord, I want you to pay attention to the rest of this now, because the Lord God just starts talking to Adam alone. There's no more mention of Eve and the woman. And it says, verse 3:22, and the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So he put flaming swords to turn every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So remember Revelations 22, says that the tree of life, it gives the tree of life a female characteristic, right? So this is just symbolic that we don't have access to the tree of life. Lord God is make believing that the flaming sword which turns every way to keep the way to the tree of life is really the way to the tree of life. But Adam and Eve already has the way to the tree of life. Okay, Adam and Eve already has the way to the tree of life because the tree of life has a female characteristic. And if Eve is female, she can tap into her power as the tree of life. She can tap into it. Now, she doesn't know this, so that is why it seems like this flaming sword turning every way is the deterrent. But the flaming sword is really just her lack of knowledge that she can tap into it. And at the end of it, he's talking about man. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So, one, they had access to the tree of life. They had access to the knowledge because Revelation 22 tells us that the tree of life has the river running down. It's in the middle of the city, just exactly where the Garden of Eden is. So for the Bible to tell us we need to perform all these works and give offerings of our labors to this and that and follow these commandments, in which the commandments, we do need laws and rules and regulations because human beings are an irrational, violent group of people. So we definitely need rules and laws. But for them to tell us that this is the way to the tree of life, it is not so because we were already at the tree of life and Lord God kicked us out. So to tell us now that we have to journey and do all of this and all of that to get back there, we were already there and you kicked us out. So telling us we're supposed to get there, if we get there, will you really give us access to the tree of life this time? Which we're the tree of life anyways. It's just the knowledge of us being told how to access our power. That's all that was needed. The serpent gave Eve the knowledge that she has the power, and she shared that with her husband Adam, that they have the power. They just did not know how to access their power. It's all here. It's all here on this earth. Everything that we need is here. Everything that you use in your life, you have manifested or has been manifested for you. It's here. It's being turned from the elements, from the water, from the sun, from the wood, from the rocks, from the ground, from the trees. Everything that we need is here. We just don't know how to access it. And that is what is being talked about right here, that the serpent was coming in, giving us the knowledge that everything you need and want is here. You just don't know how to access it. If we were educated and told from birth that we have everything we need, it's just for us to access it, we would probably grow up thinking very differently rather than thinking that rather than thinking that we are in a deficit. We're not in a deficit. We're actually in abundance. We're in overabundance. Even now, if you look at the media, we're in overabundance, but we're in overabundance of junk media telling us to fight against each other when we should be working with each other to manifest what is on the earth, to become the tree of life for ourselves. So we're kicked out of the garden. not being told we only know half the story. We know that we can do things, but we don't know how to do these things. And so if we put our focus on that, that would be really, really good.